Welcome to What Really Matters podcast, Everyday Spirituality with Karen Wyatt. I am a retired hospice physician, author, and educator. And in this podcast, I share some of the spiritual issues I'm working on myself. I talk a lot about my own personal journey, what I'm struggling with, what I've learned, perhaps tools I've tested out and tried. And I really talk about this information in hopes that maybe it will resonate with someone listening, because maybe you're struggling with some of the same things I am. So I often get a little bit personal and tell some of my own stories, which I'm going to do today, because that is where I learn that all of my experience comes through life itself and what I have lived. I can't really say that I have tremendous knowledge about things other than life knowledge, life experience, but I want to pass that on and share it, because sometimes these are things we don't always talk about enough with one another. We don't always share our deeper inner work that we're doing, our pain, our struggles, our difficulties with each other. And particularly to be able to share it from a positive vantage point of having made a little progress, of having had an insight or seeing something more clearly now that I couldn't see before. And so to begin this conversation today, I'm going to actually read you a story that I wrote a number of years ago. And because it tells of a metaphor that's really profound and important. And then I'll go on and talk about it a little bit more and how I'm applying it right now today to my life. So again, as I said, this story was written a number of years ago. And I'm just going to read it. One day last summer, again, now many summers ago, I had a chance to contemplate the merits of forgiveness while I was running on a mountain trail near my home. When I reached the top of the trail where it crossed a stream, I stopped to enjoy the scenery and spotted a large heart-shaped rock in the woods. For the past 3 years, I've been planting and tending a forgiveness garden in my yard, and I've been collecting heart-shaped rocks to scatter throughout and around the garden. I knew this rock would be perfect for the border of my little garden plot, so I decided to bring it down the mountain with me. The rock weighed about 10 pounds, but I'm fairly strong, so I was certain I could carry it with no problem. I found, however, that the rock seemed to become heavier and heavier as I made my way down the trail. I couldn't run while I was toting it, so I had to walk, which meant that the entire journey took much longer than usual. My arms grew tired, and my hands were becoming raw and abraded from holding on to the rough surface of the stone. Suddenly, in the midst of my discomfort over this task I had taken on, I recognized that the rock represented for me all that I have not yet forgiven. The weight of that stone in my hands was burdening me, just like the anger and resentment I carried in my heart. I stopped for a moment to take a rest and contemplate the symbolism. Holding on to unhealed bitterness is indeed like carrying a heavy weight with you everywhere you go. It slows you down, dominates your thoughts, causes your body to react in pain and discomfort, and prevents you from doing other important work because it drains your energy. I knew I could just drop the rock and leave it behind at any moment, freeing me from my temporary discomfort. But the resentment I carried inside could not be dropped so easily. Once I understood that the rock was a literal manifestation of my failure to forgive, I was determined to carry it all the way to the garden. I began to contemplate what might be hidden deep inside of me, untouched by the act of forgiveness, and one by one, as I unearthed those little hurts and disappointments and wounds, I began to transfer them to the rock. That rock became the actual repository of old pain that needed to be cleared away, and I found great joy in carrying it the rest of the way. The pain in my hands, arms, and shoulders became tolerable because it represented the pain of genuine, heartfelt work, releasing all the negativity within me. My fatigue, rapid breathing, and perspiration were other symbols of this labor of love and redemption. The rock almost seemed to be pulling the bitterness out of me and absorbing the pain into its cool, impenetrable surface. When I finally reached my garden, so grateful that this journey was complete, I sat and considered the rock for a few more moments. As I placed it next to the columbine I had planted to symbolize forgiving my father's suicide, I felt a rush of joy run through me. Carrying that rock down the mountain, saturating it with my unhealed pain, and finally setting it down within the boundaries of my tiny garden was a forgiveness ritual that surpassed every other attempt I had made to release my anger. As I walked away from the garden, I knew that my work was just beginning, and many more mountain journeys would be required to finish the task I had started. But when the wind blew my hair and I reached to gather it, a smile graced my lips and a little song stirred in my heart. For this is the joy of releasing the weight of unforgiveness, the joy of healing and letting go of the past, the joy of dwelling right here, right now, in the perfection of this present moment. I wanted to read that story directly to you because I felt like, well, I can't retell it any better than I wrote it at that particular time. And I can share with you that over the years, I looked at that rock often in my little garden and remembered that journey of carrying the rock down the mountain and what it taught me about releasing the pain and the anger and resentment that we're holding on to. And I wanted to share that it doesn't mean that we are trying to erase or eliminate the things that have happened to us, because it's important that we acknowledge our wounds and our hurts and the damage that has been done to us. It's important that we don't try to repress that or eliminate it from our lives. We need to stay aware of it. What we need to let go of, though, is the negativity, the judgment, the blame or shame or anger or resentment that we attach to the memories of what has happened. And we can let go of some of those more toxic emotions, particularly after a particular length of time, because sometimes in the beginning, we need to feel all of our anger. We need to feel all the blame. We need to be able to activate that because it empowers us. It's just when we hold on to it year after year after year, sometimes those negative emotions no longer serve us. We're not releasing anything anymore. We're actually becoming stagnant inside because we're weighing ourselves down with old emotion, and it doesn't empower us anymore. It doesn't inform us or educate us or inspire us anymore. So there's a point when those emotions don't serve us any longer, and that's when it becomes time to think about, how do I release that and put the rock down? How can I set this weight down? Not again to throw it away, but actually to put it in a place where it can be remembered and it can be honored. What I've experienced, what I've been through, that's part of my legacy and part of what shaped me. I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want it to disappear, but I want to convert it somehow into something that adds beauty to my life rather than something that exhausts me and wears me down and constantly demands my energy, because to be in that state really diminishes my ability to be creative. So I learned that day as I carried that rock, it became clear to me that I have to always be on guard. What extra weight am I carrying about the past that I could put down? What could I leave in my forgiveness garden? And honestly, I found lots of other rocks and things to put there over the years. But it so happened almost 2 years ago now, I developed heart disease, and I had to leave the mountains because I couldn't live at high altitude any longer. I had to leave my forgiveness garden. I had to leave behind my special heart-shaped rocks. They're all still there on the property that we used to own. I had to move away from it, And in a sense, I lost that constant reminder that I had every day, seeing the rocks and the flowers in the garden. And I was moving on to deal with a new problem, a new physical problem in my health that was now became the weight that I was carrying, worrying about my health, and carrying around some fear and some concerns about how am I doing? What's going to happen to me? What is going on with my heart? And what can I do about it? And how can I help myself to heal if that's even possible? But something interesting, the reason I'm recording this episode today, I'm recording it on March 14th, which is, as we say, Pi Day, P-I, because it's 314, which are the first numbers of the number pi. And so this day, it's always a little bit of a joke to talk about Pi Day, but the date 314 has always stood out in my mind because of that association. But now it stands out in my mind because something happened exactly 1 year ago today. So this was in the middle of my time of dealing with my heart disease, and after moving away from the mountains, I received a phone call from someone from my past, my very distant past from many, many years ago, but someone with whom I had a broken relationship, a disrupted relationship that had never resolved and never been healed. And I fully and totally blamed myself for what happened between us. I did not blame the other person. I thought that her reaction to me, anything she said or did to me, was to be expected because I caused her pain and hurt her. And I had not been sure all of these years how to approach it, how to ask her to forgive me. And in fact, I thought she might be better off if she never heard from me again. That might be what she would prefer. I didn't know. So instead of reaching out, instead of having a conversation, I just carried the pain of that disruption within me, but also the blame and the shame of having caused it. And so for me, the weight of unforgiveness that I carried all those years was unforgiveness toward myself, an inability to forgive myself for doing something that had hurt another person. And I had carried that with me so long that I'd really forgotten the details of it. I had kind of forgotten that it was there, but it was like a huge, enormous weight that was placed upon my heart that I'd carried for years and years of my life, but I'd become oblivious to it in a way, which seems hard for me to imagine now, but somehow I had not connected that old self-blame and self-resentment with the heart problems that I was experiencing at that time. I had not put them together. I had not recognized that they could be related. And I thought that I was doing all my forgiveness work. I made a forgiveness garden of all things. I thought I had really been successful at forgiveness because I'd done so much work on it. And I didn't recognize that there was forgiveness that needed to happen for myself, that was actually what was creating so much pain inside of me and was hindering my own body from healing itself. I didn't realize it until this phone call came exactly 1 year ago today. I was shocked. This person was reaching out to me after so many years, many, many years, and saying to me, "I'm so sorry for the way I talked to you back then." I was stunned because I didn't remember that she had talked to me in a bad way at all. I only remembered my part of the disruption that had occurred. I only remembered that it was my fault. And yet here she was apologizing to me and asking for my forgiveness, which I gave to her immediately. I never blamed her. I never held negative thoughts toward her, only toward myself. And when I revealed that to her, she said, "Oh, I wish you had known. I forgave you a long time ago. I've been blaming myself for my part of what happened." And we both laughed a little bit, like, what? This forgiveness issue could have been dealt with many, many years ago if only we had been able to talk to one another about it, because we were each willing to forgive the other. It was forgiving ourselves that each one of us needed to accomplish now at this later point in our lives. And that day we had this amazing conversation with laughter and love and this opportunity for healing that I never could have imagined. That day I put down a stone, a heavy, heavy stone that I had carried for so many years. I did not even recognize what it was costing me. I didn't even recognize how much of my strength that was taking from me to hold on to that self-blame and self-hatred, really, that I felt. And that day 1 year ago marked the beginning of this healing journey that has been incredible for the last year of in the moment instantly seeing, oh my goodness, I need to put that down. I have to let go of that. And that became the focus of my meditation, my journaling, my somatic yoga sessions, my walks, everything is, how do I let go of this horrible self-blame and self-recrimination and self-hatred that I've carried for all these years? How do I release that from my heart? And I felt as if I was carrying less and less of a weight each day. As the day went by, I was doing really good work that was helping me lay down this burden and put the stone down in the garden. Let it be a marker there. Let it stay in that garden forever so I can see it every day and remember what I had experienced. But I did not need to carry the self-hatred, the pain of that, the self-betrayal of that. I didn't need to carry it anymore. So long story short, that phone call exactly a year ago today led fairly quickly to me starting to write once again, because at that time I was completely shut down and blocked as a writer. I hadn't been able to write anything for several years, and I tried multiple times to write the book which became Wild and Holy about my trip to Italy, and I could not do it. I simply could not write it until the phone call came. When I put the weight down that I'd been carrying, suddenly the creative flow began again. That's when I started to write Wild and Holy, and I wrote that book in 5 months. It just poured through me because I opened up all the channels once I put the weight down. And it was phenomenal to watch that happening within me and to be experiencing this flow of ideas and creativity in the midst of writing that book. But what also happened is physically, I began to get stronger and stronger and healthier and healthier. And at the end of writing the first draft of the book, I experienced, and I've talked about this before in other episodes of the podcast, I experienced a dramatic improvement in my heart condition that was demonstrable. My heart rhythm returned to normal, and it was incredible. It made a huge difference in how I felt in my entire body, my body, mind, and soul. And I attribute it in large part to putting down the weight, to stopping this exacting, demanding burden of self-hatred and self-blame that I'd carried for so many years. And so I wanted to share that with you. First of all, it's the 1 year anniversary of that incredible phone call. And she and I are still in touch and still connect. And it's been powerful. It's been powerful for everyone involved in this particular situation. And I'm still celebrating that, and I'm still working. I have other things I'm carrying around, other burdens I have to carry, and I get reminded of those. They come up to the surface all the time now. Things I need to work on, stones I need to lay down and put in my garden once again. And so I've decided I'm not living in the mountains anymore. I'm living in a condo where I don't even have a yard, but I want to start a new forgiveness garden here, perhaps in a container. It'll be much smaller, but I can still put some rocks in it. I can still put some of those heart-shaped stones in that container. And that place becomes the place where not only do I acknowledge forgiving others, but it's really about putting down the heavy stones of my self-blame and allowing myself to forgive me for not being perfect, for not being who I wish I could have been so many years ago, for not having the wisdom that I have now after all these more years of life experience, for not having that when I was in my 20s, for not knowing how to do the right thing. So that's what I wanted to share with you today about the weight of unforgiveness and those two stories that weave together now. And I'm putting it out to the world that I'm going to create a new forgiveness garden, a tiny one in a container, so that I can carry on that very important work. And I hope it inspires you as well to stop and think, are you carrying a heavy weight, a heavy stone somehow? Is there a burden within you that you could just let go of, just put it down, lay it down, and feel the relief that could come over you if you stop carrying it? So I hope when I share these tales and stories with you, I hope it's helpful to you as well. I think these are just human experiences that I'm having that maybe all of us go through at one time or another, not anything special that I've come to realize or learn. But I want to put it into words in case it inspires someone else or helps someone else to stop and think. Is there a way for me to lay down some of the burden right now, today? So wherever you are on your journey, I just want to send you so much love. And, we're all going through a rough time right now in our world. And so the kinder we can be to ourselves, the more we lay down like unnecessary negativity we have toward ourselves, the more we're going to actually be able to help the rest of the world. We'll have more energy, more creativity. Things will flow through us better. So don't forget that. Please be kind to yourself and just love who you are and love all the parts of your journey, even those that didn't go the way you wish they had. And lay it down. Lay down the heavy weight if you're carrying any of that right now. And so until we're together the next time, I'll just remind you, as I always do, that we're here for love. It's the most important thing we can do with our time here on earth. And that means we're also here to carry grief right along with the love. So face your fear, be ready for whatever life brings you next, and just love each and every moment that you have a chance to be here. Bye-bye.